Hello everyone, this is David Arroyo and we are back for value painting number 6, which is the last one of this series from the Cowboy Saloon project, which is a personal project based on the thumbnails that I uploaded last week to this YouTube channel. Right, so this time the room that we're going to design is not in any of these thumbnails. I decided to add another shot that I felt was lacking. So if you kind of remember the days of the saloons and cowboys and stuff like that, they tended to also have a lot of rooms where people could just sleep and stay the night. And I thought that was really an important part of the overall experience. So we already had a place where people could listen to music. We had a place where they can pick up the working girls. We had a place where they can drink. We had an interior shot, exterior shot, and then I thought, okay, it's important to also show the place where basically the people sleep. Now, this time I decided to have a different approach. I basically opted to start off in SketchUp, which is a 3D software application, which is super easy to use, by the way, and I strongly recommend it. I obviously model things out a little bit more detailed than I normally should, and that has a lot to do with my background as a 3D artist. I actually started off as a 3D artist in film, and I also did some for video games. And then over time, I decided to focus more on pre-production, which is what I'm doing right now. And because of my history in 3D, then when I often model things, I just tend to, I have these habits of, going a little bit more in detail. Normally when you do a SketchUp prep file for concept art, most of the time you just block in things. So instead of modeling the actual wardrobe like I just did, you just put a simple block. But yeah, it's just a habit I have. Now, back to why you would use SketchUp. Well, SketchUp has a couple of massive advantages. One of them is the fact that you can, once you have your models in, once you have your 3D in place, you can change the camera to any angle that you want. You can also change the the field of view, so your angles and all that stuff. Just play around a little bit with your perspectives, with your composition, and it gives you a lot of freedom versus if, for example, you are in Procreate, Photoshop, anything, and you start drawing out everything in perspectives. Well, you really have to do a lot of the thinking from the beginning. Whereas in SketchUp, once you have your 3D model in place, it's a little bit easier on the brain. You have it in place. All you have to do is just move the camera around like I'm doing right now to get an idea of what you want for your shot. So it has massive advantages. Plus, if you need to change the shot, or for example, especially if you have to do storyboards, then this is very useful because if there's a scene in this room, for example, if there was a scene that I had to do some storyboards in, well, guess what? I have the scene already. I don't have to redraw it a million times. I can just change the camera, export the image out like I did right here, and then import it into your app of choice, whether it's Photoshop, Sketchbook Pro, any of these things. Not Sketchbook. Sketchbook Pro. That's the one. I got confused with SketchUp. Sketchbook Pro, which is also a very, very good drawing app, by the way. I really love it for when I have to do very technical type of drawings because they have really cool rulers. But I'll get to that in another video maybe one day. All right, so the thing here, again, is once I finish that up in SketchUp, because it's used a lot in concept art, a lot of artists start off something quickly in SketchUp and then they import it into their their painting app, and then they start painting over it. So once it's in, as I've done here in Procreate, I started then doing the values as I've done in all the other value paintings. Now, as you've also noticed, I've added in more elements, like, for example, the young lady in the foreground. I've added a new piece of furniture behind the bed. And these things, you'll tend to do anyways, because what I do in Procreate, once I've imported the image, I make sure that I match up the perspectives. And once the perspectives are in, well, it's quite easy. All you have to do is just keep drawing to the same perspective guidelines, which you can set up in Procreate. And there you go. That's basically another method of doing these value paintings. It took a little bit more time. The SketchUp file took about 40 minutes, but that's, again, remember, that's because I overmodel things a bit. It could have easily been done in 15 minutes. And then once once I imported it into Procreate, I think an additional 2 hours, maybe, give or take, to put in the details of the room, the characters, and all that. So definitely food for thought. It's definitely also a method that is very advantageous, and especially here again, I already knew where the lighting was going to be in SketchUp, because SketchUp allows you to set up your light a little bit earlier in the video. When you saw that the room was moving around and stuff, and you could see the lighting on the floor already, that was me already planning ahead, knowing that, okay, when I'm going to start painting over this, I'm going to want the light right there, and the end result is actually quite good. To be honest with you, this particular value painting is my favorite of the 6. So it does really give you an advantage sometimes. And yeah, as you can see, now I'm just adding in some final details, just to get that that light really coming through, that creating that depth. And finally, obviously, as you can see here, I end up adding the final additions in Photoshop, values, and all that stuff. So there you go. This is the last value painting, and here you can see all 6 combined in a combined shot. As you can see, I really did enjoy this project. It's something that in total maybe took me about, on average, anywhere between 2 hours up to 4 hours per value painting. And then eventually what I do is I color them in. So that I do with different type of layer types and all that stuff. But that's maybe for another video in the future. Thank you very much for stopping by, guys. I hope you guys like these, and I hope you guys have a lovely day.